With the Fantasy Grounds Academy. It's a quick video about the new updates for Fantasy Grounds. So essentially we have an update to the UI and there are some quality of life changes, some things that will be helpful for you, especially if you're the game master and also if you are a developer. So one of the things that you want to be careful with is if you have any extensions that actually change the way Fantasy Grounds looks, you might want to temporarily disable those until the authors have got around to updating and fixing them if they haven't already. And what we're looking at now is the new UI that Brad has developed. If you guys had subscribed to the Baron theme, this is very close to that. And I think the Baron theme was actually kind of a test pilot for the interface. So this is the new default look. And if you're not happy with it or you don't like it, you can always load up the old nostalgic UI theme, which is now included in Fantasy Grounds. So if you don't like the way this looks, you can load up the default leather theme and make that your default. So there are changes across the board for a handful of the rule sets for the UI. I don't know how many exact. I know there's at least 6 or 7 of them that probably were updated. But again, if you don't like the way it looks, or if you're pissed off because it broke one of your extensions or whatever, make sure you mention that in the forums. I'm just the messenger, so I don't have any control over this. But if you are somebody that relies on Fantasy Grounds to run your games and something breaks, make sure that you mention it in the forums, post in the House of Healing, and I'm sure someone will get around to you and mention it. Just ranting and raving isn't going to really fix anything. So if you're resistant to change or you don't like the changes, you can always mention that in the actual forums in the Fantasy Grounds website. So I do like the way this looks. Looks pretty good. There's a little bit of a transparency behind some of these windows, so that's really nice. I kind of have this all strategically laid out so you can see some of the elements. So not a lot of changes, just a little bit of aesthetics, some roundedness here. I like the color contrast. The other thing is that the biggest takeaway from this update that I'm really happy about, and I think some of you will appreciate this, is if you go to your assets now and you do a search, it's going to remember the search. So I'm in the images section in assets. I'm going to look for the animated, let's see, animated, I'll just say animated. I'm going to search for that. And if I find my content and I'm going to use that search term, it's not going to go away like it used to. So it's going to remember the actual search term. So that's a really big update. I don't know if you guys were upset, but it has a filter up here now that preserves your search term. So that's really, really, really good. I was kind of irritated with the interface for a long time. That was something that definitely needed to happen. So this is like a quality of life enhancement. So that asset window has a memory picking, and it picks up kind of like where you left off. So this will help you when you're looking for stuff, or when you need to go through your assets. I think that's probably my biggest happy part of this. But like I said, if you like the classic core and D&D themes, you can also just go and load those up. They're extensions now, so you can have still the new update, but then you could still use the older ones. But the idea was to modernize the UI a little bit, to change the way it looked, kind of smooth it out, and it looks like D&D 5e, then the 3.5. Pathfinder, Cypher, and Fate are the ones that got the facelift. So not everything has been done at this moment. So those are some of the things that were changed in this update, and not to mention just the default letter tokens that you get in Fantasy Grounds, like the ones that are assigned to NPCs and such. They updated those to higher resolution versions of those. They also standardized and optimized the themes for performance and other things across multiple rule sets. So what they're doing is trying to lessen the load. Probably went in and replaced a lot of assets with more optimized images now that they can kind of handle the probably WebM or WebP or whatever it was. And then the assets window, of course, it remembers your search path, filter, and grid type. So that's really helpful when you go to searching. So if you change this to this grid type, it's not going to change that back unless you change it. And then if you're going to do a search, let's do, let's say animated birds. So I want to go into images, and let's say I'm looking for those birds that fly around on the screen. So animated birds. Yeah, so here's the animation, and you see it has this filter up here. Whereas before, if you went to go search for something else, you would have a problem. So that's really nice. So it remembers your search terms. So that's the nice thing about it. So that is pretty much the majority of the updates. Again, if you have a problem with the updates, just go to the forums and post your grief there. Some of you might be like resistant to the change. You don't want it or you don't like it. That's fine. The other thing is that if you're a developer and you've created content that changes the way that Fantasy Grounds looks, you might have to go and update those. And if you're somebody that subscribes to a extension or something that changes the way the interface looks, you might want to temporarily disable those if they're not working until the developer gets around to updating. So it just depends on what it is and how it works. But anyways, that's about it. I mean, this is a D&D 5e rule set, but like I said, there's other rule sets that were impacted. But it looks like mostly fantasy type base sets. I don't see too many sci-fi other than Cypher in here and the core. Fate is in there, Pathfinder 1e, so 2e hasn't changed yet, and D&D 3.5. So there's still probably some other updates to that are coming, but for the time being, if you want to roll back and just use the classic leather interface, just use the extension. That's your alternative if you don't like the changes. So anyhow, that's pretty much it. And I think Brad's going to be on the show this coming Friday with Bryce and with Bell. So if you have any questions for him about this, maybe they're going to talk about it more in length on more of an official capacity. But I just wanted to drop the video so that you are not totally blindsided. And if you aren't reading or watching or checking out the new changes that have just rolled out, this is just the kind of the things that have happened recently. So I think I'm going to cut it short. I don't need to really ramble on much longer. I don't really have anything other than to say that it was a good step in the right direction. I do like the look. I did like the Baron theme when Brad first released it. I think this is a good try and see how it goes. And what I do like is that I can actually theme the dice. So if I come over to the dice, if you own the fancy dice, I was doing this earlier, you can kind of theme it with the background if you want to be that organized or that looks like really nice interface. So you click on the body text and click on the pointer or this little color picker. You just pick on some of these elements or click on them and see if you like that color for your dice. But I think what I'm going to do is change it to this yellow instead, because I want it to show up against this, and click OK so the changes take place. And then for the text, I'll use the background color or this reddish kind of color here. And then I'm going to change it. I'm going to go down, scroll down, and change it to one of these other themes here. So that looks pretty sharp. When you have everything themed together like that, it looks really professional. I don't think you need to worry about it in most cases, but if you're going to run a stream or if you want to do like a convention, you want to show off the interface, you can definitely theme it as something like that if you'd like. But anyways, take care, everyone. Have a good week. Hopefully enjoy these changes. I'm really happy about the search thing. I think that's probably my biggest happy moment, if there is one. The interface, I'm pretty neutral on it. I think it's good. I don't think it's bad, but no. Anyways, take care, everyone. And yeah, no problem, Bangs. We'll see you shortly. We'll see you around the community. And I hope that you guys get time to check it out this week.